As we await potential indictment of the former president of the United States, we now have what we believe to be the first ever recorded exchange with the man who's investigating him, Special Counsel Jack Smith. NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach managed to intercept him outside his office this morning. You can see the special counsel on your screen there, holding onto a Subway sandwich bag as he walks back to his office. Here's the exchange.
Hey there, Mr. Smith. How are you doing? Gary Grumbach from NBC News here. Is an indictment coming soon, sir? Is an investigation wrapping up, sir?
Excuse us.
Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Smith?
The answer to that is no. Smith is tight-lipped, as he should be. We can't expect any public pronouncements until there is an indictment, if there is one, although current indications point in that direction. Yesterday, Donald Trump's attorneys met with Jack Smith himself for roughly 2 hours after they requested and did not get a sit-down with Attorney General Merrick Garland. That meeting seems to have irked the ex-president. Mere minutes after it wrapped up, Trump was wailing about the possibility of an indictment on his social media platform. Quote, all caps, how can DOJ possibly charge me who did nothing wrong? And on and on and on and on it went. New York Times even reported that Trump expects to face charges, according to people who have spoken to him. Timothy Parlatore recently left Donald Trump's legal team handling the special counsel cases, and he joins me now. Good to have you here. I guess you have said you wouldn't be surprised if he were not indicted up until now, and I just wonder if the developments of the last few days, and particularly the meeting with DOJ, changes how you're thinking about that likelihood.
Well, look, obviously, I have no idea what happened inside that meeting, but I evaluate this case based on, what I know to be the facts and the law, as opposed to just what's been publicly reported. And so, my opinion as a lawyer is that this is something that shouldn't result in charges. However, will it result in charges? That's kind of up in the air. A lot of that goes down to what the prosecutors decide to do.
When you say shouldn't, I've seen some of your previous interviews about this. I guess the sort of core question I have, I've been in a civil case, right, where someone says, you got to hold documents for discovery. And, people take that very seriously. Right. And these aren't sensitive national security stuff. It's just make sure you and go and search your email and furnish it. I just feel like if I did that and then 4 more times I was oh, here's some other stuff over the course of a year and a half, I would probably be in pretty big trouble. Independent of whether I got charged or anything. It just seems like that basic fact pattern is not something you generally want your client doing in any situation having to do with the providing of documents.
Sure. I mean, in retrospect, you can certainly take issue with the manner in which the initial searches were conducted. And one thing that that I've always looked at with that is that when the subpoena first came out, and Evan asked for additional time. They gave him a little bit of time, but not as much as he had asked for. And then he did the search that he did and gave them whatever he found within that period of time. But see, ordinarily what happens is, when I'm dealing with the U.S. Attorney's Office and I say, look, I need more time, they'll say, look, give us what you can by that date, but we want you to keep searching, thereafter. We recognize that this is going to be a much larger thing, so keep doing it on a rolling basis. And that didn't happen here. They gave him, they gave him an extra week, and they said, give us everything you find by that date, and they kind of cut it off right there. But which was weird.
Well, but there's 2 parts of that, right? I mean, the timeline here is pretty long. The guy leaves in January 2021. He's not really giving over anything except for those 15 boxes almost a year later. Then the subpoena happens months after that. Then the meeting happens after that. So this is not an overnight situation. That seems like a long amount of time.
Well, the time that I'm specifically talking about is in between the issuance of the subpoena and the compliance date. All of the stuff that happened before that is, when there is no criminal investigation, and really well, it's relevant, but it has to be examined under the Presidential Records Act and what the ordinary procedures are on a transition.
Right, but then the other thing about this is so whether the compliance timeline was weird or not, it's the thing that also strikes me. You've got 3 or 4 asks, right, for documents. Some are asks, some are compulsory, right? Some are here's a subpoena, right? And each time you don't get you don't get all of them. And we know that as a matter of fact. That's just, those are the facts. The question about the reason for that. But at one point, you get an attestation signed by a lawyer being like, we've searched high and low, and this is, as best we can tell, this is everything. And then you get a search by the FBI with like 100 more docs. It's just like, well, someone was wrong. Someone screwed this up. Yeah.
Well, and, the certification that was given at the time, was largely a standard form certification saying a diligence search has been conducted and, here are responsive documents.
Right.
In retrospect, could you sit here and say, maybe it would have been smarter to say all responsive documents that were found are attached? I don't think that in the ordinary course of things, that is kind of what prosecutors of the other side would understand it to be. So he did use a standard form for that. I think that, had there been a lot more cooperation on both sides, I'm not saying anything about, Mr. Corcoran here, but I think that definitely in the ordinary course, you would have more cooperation communications, not only from the defense, but also from the DOJ side. And I think that the manner which these communications happened, it led to that.
Let me play William Barr making a somewhat similar point. He's making it more about the Trump folks. So basically, this was avoidable if they just handed stuff over. Take a listen.
Based on the facts, as the facts come out, I think over time people will see that this is not a case of the Department of Justice, conducting a witch hunt. In fact, they approached this very delicately and with deference to the president, and this would have gone nowhere had the president just returned the documents. But he jerked them around for a year and a half, and the question is, did he deceive them? And
I mean, whether it's criminal or not, jerk them around for a year and a half does feel like it fits the facts. I don't know if that's chargeable, but it seems like a fair lay description of what went on.
And a fairly uninformed one, unfortunately, because really we're talking about multiple phases here. We're talking about the initial discussions between the president and the National Archives, where he has the 2 years in which to review these documents. They wanted them sooner. And a lot of this comes down to the fact that the National Archives failed to get a facility in Palm Beach to store these documents, as they have for every other former president since the passing of the Presidential Records Act. They wanted all the boxes immediately returned back up to D.C., where he wouldn't have ready access to them to be able to review them as every other president has.
And that
so
point,
you have to kind of separate.
But let me just say this as a final word.
There's that administrative discussion.
Yes. There's a question here of like, oh, did I miss these documents? Or like, oh, no, I want these documents. Those two, you can argue in the alternative because you're a lawyer and that's what you do. But those two are in some logical tension. It's not like, oh, well, I meant to give you guys, I didn't have it. It's like, no, I want this document near me. And if you look at what Trump says, it seems like a lot of it was that latter category. Tim Parlatore, who served as an attorney for the president. Thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.